Welcome to Things You Don't Know, where history steps out of the shadows and into your earbuds. I'm Dr. William Weaver here with my always dialed in co host and our coordinating companion.
I'm Dr. Sean Deneen, and Dr. Weaver, today our episode is one about longing, lovers, and legacy.
And I am Chandler Foster, here to connect the call. Today, we're talking about the public telephone, that coin-fed oracle in the booth, once a lifeline, and now but a museum piece.
Some say the first public payphone rang out in 1889, a box in Hartford, Connecticut, courtesy of inventor William Gray. But did you know Gray wasn't a telephone man at all? No, 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 no. He was a janitor. His wife got sick, and he couldn't find a neighbor with a phone, and he swore that would never happen again.
That often happens. Necessity truly is the mother of invention. Gray's contraption, a coin-operated payphone, made deals, saved lives, and even launched careers. By the 1920s, phone booths dotted cities like gaslights.
And those booths became cultural touchstones. Superman changed in one. Lovers confessed their hearts over buzzing wires. Detectives made midnight calls. Soldiers phoned home.
And maybe E.T. did too.
Well, he did, especially back in 1982 when the movie was created.
Yes, indeed. By 1950, there were over 1 million payphones in America. By the 1980s, nearly 2.5 million. They were everywhere: airports, bars, highways, hospitals, and each one had its own etiquette. 3 rings and hang up, always carry change, don't hog the line. Yeah.
For decades, that first call was just 10 cents, hence the phrase dropping a dime on somebody. In cities, it was a quarter, but for long distance, you'd stack dimes like poker chips. Operators, many of them women, handled your routing and they knew the business.
But now, here's where it gets a little bit wild. The payphone wasn't just for polite calls home, it became the playground of tricksters, the so called phone freaks.
Before the word hacking meant hoodie clad coders, there was a quieter, stranger, stranger rebellion, manipulating the phone system with sound.
That's because the Bell system, the only phone system there was, led by Ma Bell herself, used in-band signaling until the late 1970s. The same line you talked on carried the control tones used to route calls. If you knew which sounds meant what, you could trick the system into thinking you were an operator. Translation, ladies and gentlemen, free long distance calls.
And the magic key, a single tone, 2600 hertz. One whistle at just the right pitch could unlock the whole network.
Joe Ingresia, a blind college student with perfect pitch, discovered he could whistle 2,600 hertz exactly. He became a legend in the freaking world.
Then came the cereal box revolution. In the 1970s, Captain Crunch, cereal, one of my favorites as a child, gave away toy whistles. Plastic blue and seemingly harmless. But one of them just happened to blow a perfect 2600 tone. Enter John Draper, Captain Crunch, who used it to manipulate payphones and call for free worldwide.
Draper built the first blue box, a handheld tone generator, and passed the knowledge along to young California tinkerers whose names you may just remember: Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Yeah, got hooked. Before Apple, before Macintosh, they were building and selling blue boxes in college dorms.
And Woz later admitted if it hadn't been for the blue boxes, there might never have been an Apple computer. That's how deep the rabbit hole went here, man.
This wasn't just prank calls. Phreakers mapped foreign exchanges, infiltrated conference bridges, and even tapped FBI lines. Not to spy, but to prove they could. It was part mischief and part activism.
I'm sorry. I just think it's hilarious that those two men who are now so well known and millionaires, et cetera, were doing that.
I know what you mean. It's like finding out that a great sports star stole a candy bar or something. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things you don't hear. It's what it's like. You would do that?
Hmm. Well, to them, the phone system was a monopoly fortress. Phreaking was Robin Hood work. And when we say phreaking, we're talking about phone phreaking, exposing flaws, challenging power, and democratizing access.
But of course, the FBI didn't laugh. Arrest followed. In 1971, Esquire published Secrets of the Little Blue Box, and the underground scene exploded into mainstream legend.
By the 1980s, digital switching killed the playground. The tones no longer worked, but the culture of hacking, the very roots of modern cybersecurity, were born in a phone booth.
And yet, the end came slowly, then all at once. Cell phones hit in the late 80s, clunky and rare. By the late 90s, they were status symbols. By 2010, they were everywhere. The humble payphone, vandalized, forgotten, began to vanish.
In 2018, the FCC stopped even tracking them. New York City's last booth was removed in 2022, and yet in Japan, they remain critical during earthquakes when cell networks fail, and some booths serve as Wi Fi hubs, art installations, or tiny libraries.
What's lost is the ritual, the romance of a rainy call home, the suspense of dialing each number and wondering if you're going to get an answer, the privacy, the gravitas.
It was shared space, public trust, and in emergencies, it always worked. Battery or no battery.
And America wasn't alone. Across the pond, Britain's red telephone boxes became national icons. Designed in 1924 by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, they stood like soldiers from London to the Scottish Highlands.
France had its green, glowing cabinet téléphonique of the 1970s. Japan maintained payphones, as Chandler mentioned. I think it was Chandler mentioned that payphones still in Japan because they're
Yes, sir.
disaster lifelines after the Kobe earthquake and the 2011 tsunami.
In India, bright yellow STD booths in the 80s and 90s connected rural villages to the world. In South Africa, Brazil, and Russia, each nation gave its own twist, but the theme was universal: access, community, voice.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the payphone as a quiet tool of civil rights.
In Jim Crow America, Black travelers barred from hotels and kept out of waiting rooms could still find a payphone. The Green Book often listed their locations, lifelines in dangerous terrain. Activists used them to coordinate sit ins, warn of violence, or call for help.
And in apartheid South Africa, where landlines were denied to the black families, public phones became underground channels of resistance. Kind of puts you in mind of the Underground Railroad.
That's an
Hmm.
excellent analogy, Shanna.
Yeah, thank you. Township residents used them to reach loved ones in cities or to organize protests, like the Soweto Uprising of 1976.
After Soweto, the regime even stripped whites only signs from some booths, not out of justice, but out of fear of global backlash. But symbolically, it mattered. For the first time, some teenagers could lift a receiver without being told by a sign they didn't belong.
In both countries, payphones became portals of dignity. A coin, a handset, and a crackle of static became weapons of connection and survival.
You see, that's the hidden story. Payphones weren't just about technology, they were about power, liberation, and human voice.
Now, here's something we haven't touched yet, literally. The question, did payphones spread disease?
And the short answer is yes, at least the everyday kind. Those receivers, coin slots, and keypads were touched by thousands of strangers. The mouthpiece, especially, was a germ hotspot. Think about it. People breathing, coughing, and even sneezing right into that little perforated circle.
So basically, every payphone was a community petri dish, huh? You didn't just call your mama. You shared microbes with a few thousand of your closest friends. I mean, strangers.
Exactly. Studies in the 1980s and 90s swabbed public telephone booths and found colonies of Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, and even cold viruses. The CDC compared payphones to public restroom services in terms of contamination.
But let's be clear, you weren't going to catch HIV or hepatitis from a payphone, despite the frightening urban myth. Those viruses don't survive on plastic or metal. What you were more likely to pick up was a cold, the flu, or maybe a mild skin infection if you were really unlucky.
Still, that didn't stop people from getting creative. Folks would grab the receiver with a tissue or wrap a sleeve around it like they were answering the world's dirtiest call. Some even joked you needed to have a hazmat suit in order to check your voicemail.
Public health experts treated them the same way they treated doorknobs or elevator buttons. High touch, high risk, but not catastrophic.
And it probably did nudge people towards cell phones once those became affordable. Suddenly, you didn't have to gamble your immune system just to say, I'll be home late for dinner.
So, yes, payphones spread voices, stories, and the occasional case of the sniffles. The original group chat with bonus germs.
So, after all this, you might be wondering, do payphones still exist? Well, the answer is yes, though they are rare. As we mentioned, in Japan, they're part of the National Disaster Response System. When earthquakes or tsunamis knock out cell towers, the humble payphone just keeps on a working.
And in the US, they haven't vanished completely. You'll still find them in places where cell service is restricted or unreliable, like prisons, schools, and hospitals. In prisons, payphones are tightly regulated and often the only lifeline for inmates to reach loved ones or lawyers. In hospitals, they serve as quiet backups when mobile devices fail. And in schools, they once lined the hallways so kids could call home, usually to say they missed the bus.
The original mom pick me up text message only louder, slower, and it cost a quarter.
But it's not just America. In Canada, some booths still dot urban corners, though their numbers are dwindling. Australia went a step further. In 2021, Telstra made payphone calls free nationwide, turning relics into community service tools. I think that's a really nice idea.
It is. In India, the iconic yellow STD booths were once the backbone of long distance calling. A few still survive in rural towns as community hubs. Brazil maintains thousands of payphones, especially in neighborhoods with unreliable mobile coverage, although many are being repurposed as Wi Fi stations.
So while the payphone may be a ghost in New York, it's still alive, sometimes even thriving around the world.
You know, it's ironic. We carry phones more powerful than NASA's computers in our pockets. Yet in a crisis, sometimes that clunky, coin fed relic is still the most reliable voice you'll find. And, just a quick little anecdote. When I went to Europe, this was, well, a long time ago, the way to call home to let people here in the United States know that I had arrived safely had to go to a post office with a special phone booth, pay the people to call, because I was in Switzerland, to call home. And it connected from, from where I was to France, to England, to New York, if you can imagine all that stuff.
And beyond reliability, there's something we've lost: the privacy, the ritual, the drama of lifting that heavy receiver and waiting for the click of connection.
Not to mention, there was no better place for a dramatic breakup, a whispered secret, or pretending you were Superman. Try changing clothes in an iPhone. Doesn't really work too well.
Gee. Only you would come up with that, Chandler.
Yes, sir.
So next time you walk past a rusting booth, give it a nod. That box carried confessions, rebellions, emergency calls, and yeah, the occasional cold virus.
It was a stage, a shield, and sometimes a lifeline, whether in a school hallway, a hospital corridor, prison yard, or far off village stall in India, all for a dime, a quarter, or a handful of coins stacked like poker chips.
And hey, man, at least with a payphone, you never had to worry about your battery dying, just whether you had enough change or whether the guy before you sneezed into the receiver.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, this has been things you don't know and things I learned some things when we were researching this, and I think it was pretty interesting.
I think so too. It's touching in a way. An archaic object like a payphone has a story to tell.
And sometimes collect.
Yeah. Alrighty. So next time you see a rusted booth or a repurposed red box, pause, tip your hat. That clunky steel skeleton once carried love, rebellion, and survival through its wires.
From Superman to Steve Jobs, from Soweto to Soho, the payphone is more than a relic. It's a chapter of our shared story.
This has been Things You Don't Know. Until next time, keep your lines open. You never know who might be calling.
Bye for now, folks.
Goodbye, folks.
Bye bye.